every human knows this subconsciously, that if you find your purpose and your passion, you are going to, basically have fun for the rest of your life, and you're never going to think it's a job.
Right.
And yet, so many people don't find it. It's the easiest thing to understand. It is the hardest thing to actually do for yourself.
Right.
Hello, how's everybody doing on this beautiful day? I'll tell you what, it is January and we've had 2 80-degree weather days. So if you are not used to that weather, I'll tell you what, I'm sorry. Some people are getting blizzarded in, but San Diego, I'm loving life right now. So life is good. Nice warm in January. We don't even get this weather. So it's great. I'm going to hop right into it today. I have a great friend of mine, a good coach. He actually just got done coaching my sign company today on mindset. Demond, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Aaron. Always a good time, man.
It was great. So we just got out of it. We just got out of your class. We were there for about an hour and a half, 2 hours going through what you said is just the tip of the iceberg of what your process is. But you are a mindset coach. Elaborate on that for me.
Okay. One thing that happened in my life, I had 3 different businesses, and I built that process in my life. And what I come to learn and understand is that I was chasing money and I was not being fulfilled. And I felt like I was underutilizing. And I was like, there's literally have to be more, right? And then I did that whole deep dive inside, and I realized, oh my God. Everybody is always trying to improve life by building everything around them, except the most valuable thing they have is themselves. And naturally, it's how I think. I grew up just thinking I was the weird guy. So this is like, I'm perfect in that line.
Well, I'm going to hate to burst your bubble, but you're still the weird guy. But we all are.
Yes.
We all are. When you really look at yourself, we all are weird. We all got our quirks and kinks, but that's what makes us awesome and great in different ways.
100%.
It was so funny because I really had no idea what to expect.
Right.
And I told you that going into it. I said, hey, I've heard a lot of good things about your presentations, your courses that you give online. I said, can you give like an overview summary for my team? And let's just kind of see where this happens. And I went into this, I jumped in with both feet, just, let's see what happened. And man, the smiles that came out of the team's faces, people's just their thought processes changed. It was a home run right off the bat. And like I said, we just touched on this.
Yeah, just the tip.
Yeah, exactly. You got some depth courses here. So obviously you didn't start this yesterday. When did your company come online?
2 ways I like to answer that question. One, the company came online roughly 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
All right. But as far as the process and the work that I've been doing it for over two decades.
Gotcha. Okay.
I just did it for free and didn't realize it was the purpose.
And I want to talk about the purpose. I want to get back to that in a little bit. But one of the things that we do at the beginning when we know how good we are at something, it's so simple to us. We don't think about charging for it. We're just like, this is easy. Here, let me teach you real quick.
Right.
And you don't think about it. And after a while, you kind of wake up and go, wait. This is something that's amazing and people can profit from that. And I don't have to go beat my head against the wall all day long.
Right.
And I can change lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really cool. When did that shift happen for you personally and say, you know what, I want to make a career out of this. I want to really touch people's lives versus my 9 to 5.
Right. I would say that with that, that is when I had the revelation that everything is quantifiable.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is quantifiable. And how do you want to spend your life? Do you want to spend your life saying that I'm just doing what I have to do so that I could live this way? Or if you understand that the purpose is really about servicing other people, then you learn that, hey, why not? Like, why would it make sense to not benefit others and actually provide a foundation for my family? And how that works in a relationship where it makes the most sense is that I want to add this tremendous amount of value for this compensation.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing that, it allows it and it makes plenty of sense that, hey, I can make a living by making the world a better place. And me personally, I can't think of a better way to do it.
Yeah, no, I love that. we talked about, you just touched on, and we can talk for hours about purpose. Good Lord, we can talk for a long time. But one of the things that we all know about subconsciously, every human knows this subconsciously, that if you find your purpose and your passion, you are going to, basically have fun for the rest of your life, and you're never going to think it's a job.
Right.
And yet, so many people don't find it. It's the easiest thing to understand. It is the hardest thing to actually do for yourself.
Right.
I want to jump right into this because I know it's probably the hardest thing to do. How does someone find a purpose?
Okay, so there's two things that I have laid out. Well, to first define a purpose, you have to understand some of the groundworks that go around purpose.
Okay.
So you have to knock out some of these myths and concepts that people have. Well, I believe my purpose is ever evolving. I believe my purpose is fluid. It changes day to day. Well, then that means literally you are finite. You were designed a certain way. And if you believe that you were designed to fulfill a purpose and that purpose is always changing, that means you're always changing, but yet you don't. So it kind of is always moving the goalposts in that regard.
So if I play that myth card, all I have to do say is, well, the world keeps changing, and I'm trying to be the same, and this is my evolution.
Right.
And basically, it's one gigantic excuse box. As for the outside world spinning, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm trying.
Right. It's just, I believe it just changes as you go. And really, we have to understand that this is what purpose is, something that we discover, we don't create. So you don't design your purpose, you discover it. And the example that I like to use, I even use when we're talking with your team, is think of cutting a light on in a room, right? Well, once you cut on that light, you have clarity. But the fact that you turned on the light didn't change anything in the room. It doesn't change your design. And some of the traits that we use to discover purpose are two things. One, we have to understand what the desire and what our tendencies are of our heart, and understand that our purpose is always for other people, not for us. It's that example that you hear people say where they say, a fruit doesn't eat its own tree. A tree doesn't eat its own fruit. That its fruit that it bears is always for someone else. Yet, by sharing its fruit and going through the process of it being consumed and planted in other places, it allows for it to grow more and germinate, right?
Yep.
So we have that concept of understanding what's in your heart. The second part is, what are your actual talents? What are your actual attributes that you're designed for? Because that's another thing that we discover we don't create. If I could have created and picked my talents, I definitely would be able to draw better than my 12-year-old daughter. I would handle it every time, but that's not it, and that's the beauty of it. That's what makes life interesting, to know that there's always something that you can always gain better view and better understanding of. And I think some of that revelation that people have of this understanding, like, oh my God, like I understand this so differently, is where the confusion comes. And another line, and the same thing I talked about, is that people are often mistaking their purpose with their vehicle.
Touch upon that more, because I would love for everybody to understand this. You have your purpose and you have your vehicle. What do you mean by vehicle?
Okay. Your vehicle is what you use to fulfill purpose. Now, we have the concept that I have is that there's two ways to look at vehicles. There's direct line and indirect line vehicles. Vehicles that make sense. Like, for example, I tell you that my purpose, while I was on this earth, while I was air put in my lungs, while God created me, while God gave me my skill set and everything, was to help people improve their greatest resource by developing their mindset, right? Because we know mindset changes the view, the landscape of everything, right? But then you have other people who have purposes that are built to help others, but what they're using is not directly, clearly related to that. So, for example, I know you, right? And I know you want to help people in every way you can, and be a force that helps everybody expedite their path to their goals, to their dreams. But you have a sign company and a software company that you're utilizing, right? But what do you do with those resources? You apply those in other ways that directly develop, right? So not only are you increasing the value and developing and making businesses more resourceful and successful, you're also taking those resources that you get from that allows you to live the kind of life and access the same information that allows to benefit others. So even though you have a software design company, you're using it to fulfill your purpose, which is always about helping make this world better.
Gotcha. No, that's a good clarifier on that one. And you touched on this. I'm going to ask you to go into depth again on this one. A lot of people think their vehicle is their purpose.
Right.
They think that the sign company, that what I was put on the earth is the guide to sign manufacturers to put signs on walls and stuff. And you clarified that great, but would you say more than 50% mistake the vehicle?
Yes, a lot.
Yeah.
I would even venture to say 80, 85%. So one thing that we see as a core difference when it comes to understanding this process is the rules of what success and all that looks like. And that is understanding that the rules is based on everything. I preach this to all of my clients all the time. Everything's a developmental issue.
Just want to take a moment to talk about Square Coil here. Square Coil has been powering the signage industry since 2011, and we're only growing bigger and better and stronger every single day. Some of the latest updates have just made my life a lot easier. I'm sure it's going to make your life a lot easier. So if you haven't checked us out, go ahead and get on our website, squarecoil.com. Take a look. And if you have an outdated key, an old software program that's going to be closing its doors this year, definitely take a look at us because we can make that transition real simple for you. Take a look, squarecoil.com.
Everything is a development issue. I had this client, she became a client, but I was talking to her at an event. It was an event, as like awards for entrepreneurs, right? So think the Oscars, but for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And like the Southern California Inland Empire area. Big thing, big table placements, beautiful lights, production, dancers, like crazy stuff, right? And they had this big, where all the kind of high profile entrepreneurs had this kind of like VIP after mixer thing. And you're talking a room full of 200-300 people. And you're in there and she's telling me her idea for the business that she has and what she wants to do. And she said, all I need is $500,000 to be able to fund this thing. And I just need that and I'm good. I said, actually, it's not a money issue. She's like, what do you mean? I know my number. I just need 500,000. That's not it. It's a development issue. She said, that doesn't make sense to me. I understand. I just need money. No, you don't, because you're in a room with hundreds of millions of dollars of access, and a better version of you could come in this room and walk out with $500K. It's a development thing.
It's true.
A better you gets that. And that is the biggest thing that I think that people need to always recognize and focus, because it understands the power that they have to affect outcome.
There's a lot to unravel just in those couple of sentences. There's a lot right there. People, you should be using the rewind button right about now and take a look at that. But it as you grow and as you develop, and there's a sense of self-confidence. And as you have more experiences, not time, just more experiences, and your gut proves to be right, you get to go through, you get a little bit more self-confident. And that's one of those development things that kind of go through that. It is just so funny how different labels that we put on kind of a very similar thing, but each word means such a different thing. Because I'm going to say self-confident. That's not really what a mindset is, but it's in the realm. It's in the realm of that.
Right.
So one of the things that I always ask all the people that come on the podcast is, how do you apply it for yourself?
Okay. So one thing that I'm very proud of is that I loathe hypocrisy.
Okay.
And in the work that I do, it's very easy to recognize. So I live this life and everything that I teach because I have to. When I started off and I was at my rock bottom, I got into mindset and I learned this stuff because I had to use it. I was the same as everybody else. I was stuck, lost, trying to figure out like which way's up, which way's down. And I just don't know. I had some accomplishments and I felt stuck and all of that. And then I was doing the same thing that everybody else did. I read the books. I gained all the information I had. And I realized that there was a lot of books with a lot of powerful stuff, but I was always missing those last 3 steps of application. It's like when you hear the story of, you hear that driven foul story, and it was like, yeah, they went through this tough time and then they broke through and now they made it because they persevered, right? But what I want to know is, in between, how did they pay their bills? In between, when that moment and all the pressure was, what did they apply so they didn't break under the pressure of it all, right? And what I always teach people, because sometimes my clients think that because I have a mastery of mindset, that all of a sudden I stop being human. And the thing is that this is an ongoing, everyday process. At the moment that you think you have it all together, you are already failing because you got stagnant and you didn't go forward. So I applied in every day of my life. Like even this podcast. Let me tell you what's going to happen. This podcast, when I get a chance to get it, I'm going to study it like gang film. And I'm going to dissect what parts could I have been clear in understanding. And I'm going to visualize and mark the point of where I want to be and how do I develop my path to get there. So the biggest thing that helps me with mindset, why I don't have anxiety and all of those crazy things, is because I know these techniques and I utilize these techniques. So as soon as that thing comes, I can exit out of it really fast. And it's just because I use it in my day-to-day. I use it in how I am as a husband. I use it how I am as an individual, as a Christian, and as a father.
When you said hypocrisy, I was dying laughing because so many people speak it, and then you go look at their day-to-day lives, you're like, what is this shit? And it's true. It's just like, if you're going to walk the walk, talk the talk, come on, you got to be on point. Now, I will say that it cracks up now. As for all us sign dogs out there, alcohol's our best friend because it keeps the sanity and whatnot. And you don't drink, do you?
No.
You won't touch it.
No.
Because you're too busy evolving and evolution and a mindset. You're like, that is like putting the e-brake on me when I'm trying to move this way, so I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah. So I got a funny thing with that.
Go for it.
With alcohol. So it's not that of course I've tried it, right? But what I thought about is, well, literally, I don't like the taste of alcohol. That's the start. Like,
There you go.
Not my thing.
Not enough stress in your life.
Right. Yeah, because I decompress, right? So I didn't have a taste for it like that. And when I would be around and I would drink it, and I was thinking like, well, let's just break this down. One thing I don't like is I don't like to be in this position where I have unnecessary vulnerability.
Okay.
Meaning that I'm in a place, I don't have control of myself, and I'm more vulnerable to my environment, and I just chose that. It didn't make sense to me. So in order for me to drink and it to be enjoyable, I would have to mask it with if I was to drink, it would be all women drinks. The stereotypical fruity stuff, right? That would be all me.
Yep.
And then I was like, but then I can't taste it. Next thing I know, I'm going to be somewhere sitting on my ass, knocked off and messed up because I didn't know where it was. And I had a moment one time where I had the experiences back in college. I was legal, everybody. I was old enough. And I had this buzz, not even like drunk, just buzz. And I couldn't put my thoughts together how I like it. And that bothered me because I realized that in this moment, I put myself in a position where I can't control my outcome. Now, at this time, I didn't realize it was mindset or anything like that.
Yeah.
But just in that foundational principle, that's exactly how I work with alcohol. So then after I did that, I applied it to smoking. Not for me. I applied it to various things. So on the actuality, I have a very simple life. Some people like a crazy, fast excitement. I like slow and boring. It's simple, and it's dependable, and it works.
The first time I met Demond, I'm like, you want a beer? He's like, no. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe he's got a drive or something else. And the next time I met you, I was like, you want to drink? You're like, no. And I'm like, you're going to be for like 6 hours. Like, yeah, I know. I'm like, wait a minute. Something ain't right here.
Or the cigar.
Yeah, the cigar too. Yeah, the cigar.
I'm the only one in the picture.
But at the same time, you and me both go to the gym. What are you weighing in, like 250 now?
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, you're at 250 right now and benching over 400.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not, I can't break 3 right now. So I think that explains where the alcohol, no alcohol comes into effect right off the bat.
Right. Yeah, man. It's just, it's such a powerful concept. It's such a fun thing. Like when I tell you I love this, like I would do nothing else. Nothing else. Because everything that I do is in line with my purpose. I can do this, I'll do this 20 hours a day. Just give me a couple of Red Bulls or those Bangs and, because it got the specials on them and I get the flavors. And I would just go. I never get tired of it. I never get exhausted. And at the end of the day, I feel more fulfilled than I ever have in my life. And I've made more money than I have now, considerable amount more with just other previous careers. But Nothing felt like this. And that is the feeling that I want people to understand, that you have so much control that you just give away.
Yeah.
You give it away, and it can't be taken from you.
No, you have to give it away. There's no way. Yeah.
And once you realize that you have that kind of power, why wouldn't you utilize it? Like, why would you not want to utilize it? And that's the biggest thing that hits me, that really has the need. Because one thing that happens with clients, so when I'm working with clients, now my job is not to tell you where to go.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to tell you how to process the process of getting there, right? And understanding that you have to align and reframe you along the way. And the crazy part is, so many people, now this, we talked percentages earlier.
Yep.
This is a 97% thing.
Okay.
Most people build their life and plans with a certain level of expectancy of failure.
Yes, I would agree to that. I do it as well.
Mm-hmm. All right, everybody, you have to be very conscious and very aware and understand a very simple structure that you can easily follow over and over and over again. Let's not overcomplicate it, right? In order to address that, because it's a constant threat. But here's a concept that I didn't even introduce today I want to share with you.
Go for it.
So one thing I ask my clients, I say, what would you do differently? Like, if you knew you couldn't fail? Like, what would your plan be? 95% of the time, they tell me something different than what they're doing.
Yeah.
And if I said, only thing I said is that you believe 100% you will make it. The only opposite of that is that there's some measure of doubt that you have in your success, which means there's a measure of expectation you have for failure. Why would you build the plan like that?
Yeah.
Then we take it a step further. Here's the concept. I say, what would you do? How would you do it differently if you had the confidence of God? If you knew that you can create and do, what would you do? And that's that right there is when you see the light bulb click.
Yeah. Why can't I do it?
Click, like,
Why am I not doing that right now?
because
Why don't I start moving?
I didn't give you a power that you didn't have. I didn't give you any additional attributes. I just gave you the one thing that you need to change anything in your life, and without this single thing, you cannot change anything. Awareness.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. It's all you do is just barely changed, the clarity. You just turn on a light bulb, not even a bright light bulb. Just turn on a light bulb in the room. And they went, oh, this is what it looks like.
Yeah. And most people solve their own problems. They just don't have a belief system in their ability to solve it.
That's for darn sure.
Yeah.
That's for darn sure. I meet so many people, they literally can talk themselves into circles. While you're talking to them, you're like, just pick a direction and go. We'll change course if need be, but pick a direction and go. And even then, sometimes they can't.
Right.
There's kind of that little circle of death.
Right. And it's not an aptitude thing. It's not an ability thing. It's a mindset that aligns with the desired outcome thing. And then that's a whole gamut of belief system. Like with you, for example, that's one thing I love about you when we talk about this. You are very impactful.
Okay, we'll go with that.
We go with that one. We go with that one. And what is greatness, right? Because we have to be very careful, because online, on social media all the time, you hear all of these things that people want to use to make something feel complex. And as soon as you see somebody, whenever you're looking online and you see somebody trying to make it seem more complex and like intangible, like it's this thing, right? Or they can't give you steps, or they can't give you examples, real life examples or references. It is a way to glorify themselves in the concept to say, hey, I'm smart, but not really, hey, I really want you to learn, because if I did, I would show you step by step how to get there. And that's the piece. So one thing that my clients say that I get a big compliments on most of the time is that I make things simple, which is the one compliment my whole life I would have never thought I got. Would have never thought this. I make it simple? Okay.
But it's true, and it really is. The greatest person to take the most complex things and break it down into little bite-sized pieces, and then we understand it can move forward. We talked earlier in this podcast talking about you didn't understand the applications. How do they get to the step process?
Right.
That drives me up the wall. And then when they actually give a little tidbit of what that application could be, it's usually sending you off in a wrong direction. Like Instagram, as much as I hate to say it, good God, there's a lot of bullshit on. You start scrolling, you're like, that's inaccurate. That's inaccurate. Oh, when they start talking about accounting, oh, my blood boils. So like, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong.
About that tips.
Yeah. And I was like, dude, you're going to get people in trouble with the IRS. You guys don't know what you're talking about. I'm losing my shit on this. And if you can make it simple and explain it, now you've really, in my opinion, mastered that field, mastered that thought process where you can make it simple. So no, I would think that's one of the highest honors someone could say to you.
I take it that way.
I would.
Because it's the work. And all right, so let's break the mechanics of that down really quick.
Go for it.
People violate a basic law, a universal principle. And I say universal principle because I have this thing that I teach, and if it's true, it's always true. Like if a person is 6'3", standing up full bench, right? Here's a perfect example. Let's say they walk around every day, you're like 6'2", right? Because you slumped over.
Yep.
You do that, you're 6'3", right? So what is that is just about a utilization of your capacity,
Yep.
right? But at no point, never in your life, were you ever 6'6".
Correct.
You're always where you are, period. Now, where we come to the violation that people do, and they set themselves up, and it's like, you don't use this for anything in success in your life. Why would you use it that way now? Is this concept that everything has to be done at once. We don't do everything at once in any form of our life, period. Not one thing. When you eat, your mission is to get full, but you don't get full all at once. You get full one bite at a time, right? If your goal is to in a plane, if a pilot's goal is to get to a certain altitude, do you know that they measure that in feet?
Yep.
They're climbing 1 feet at a time. It's just very fast.
Yep.
That's a whole nother conversation. But everything is only one step, one bite, one piece, one action at a time.
Correct.
And that's all we have to get right. And if we just willing to get that right enough times in a certain time frame, then the goal becomes the byproduct. So what we want to do essentially is we want to make our goal or what we're pushing for something that is a byproduct. It can't help but happen.
Yeah.
And our mindset is that key to align that.
If you're listening right now and your sales team has at that state where they don't know what's next or what the goal is, you guys need to get on demondlogan.com. We're going to put it in the show notes here. This is something you're going to want your team to be a part of and listen to. Even if you get them on one of the smaller scales, which is a 2 to 4 hour session, just to kind of get the creative juices flowing. This is, it was amazing. My team's already talking a little bit differently on different things. So if you're hearing this right now, trust me, demondlogan.com, you're going to love it. I gotta bring this one up because I'm gonna laugh my ass off the most. Are you smarter than was it 5th grader, 3rd grader? What was that? Third grader. Are you smarter than a 3rd grader?
No, the show was 5th grade.
5th grader? 5th grader. Are you smarter than a 5th grader? I have a worse one in my head now, thanks to you. Am I smarter than a GPS machine? And the answer is no, and it sucks. My humble pie is quite large right now because apparently a GPS has a better discipline than I do. I'm going to fumble fuck this up, so I'm not going to try and do this. You need to explain the GPS, but all I know is a GPS is smarter than I am.
Right. So how I came across the GPS is one day that light bulb went off. And I was like, oh. All right, so let's make the GPS a person,
Okay.
right?
Yep.
And let's say that the GPS is going for the same goal you have.
Yes.
First one wins.
Yep.
Well, your GPS is going to execute all of the fundamentals of success. So people use GPSs to find success, but they don't want to match the energy. And how that works exactly is that the GPS knows exactly where you are, what you need to know, exactly where you want to go, what you need to go. And then it maps the course based on the best information it has at the time, the best course to get there, right? And throughout that course, it has all the anticipations of all the things that it says, hey, there's going to be an obstacle here. We're going to have to make an extra turn here. There's a traffic jam there. There's police there. There's accidents. There's construction. And to make all these gestures to calculate the best route available, right? And then it goes. Now, what happens in the middle of the route? Oh, recalculation.
Yep.
it just got real. So now we got this big delay because people decide to play bumper cars. So now we have this big delay. Now what happens when that happens, your GPS does not tell you to turn around and go home. It's just like, oh my God, it's going to be an extra 2 hours. So let's just take it on back.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. It doesn't flinch. It doesn't blink. It just says, all right, cool. We're going to recalculate this to get there. And that's because the GPS believes at all times 100% in the possibility of reaching the outcome, and that how we have to get there is just a developmental process. And if we visualize our road, we can get there. For us, what happens with people is that we allow how we feel about the circumstance to create a shift in how we view and how we do. So now we either slow up, we stop, we contemplate, turn around, we go around, we think about it, then we go back out.
Yep. Oh, it is.
See, push there, and what happens is we don't reach there. We don't reach the point that we're meant to reach at the time which we're meant to reach it, and understanding that everything is an intersection. So when you get there, you're supposed to be there at a certain time because something else is there. But that other bus that you want to get to, it doesn't wait there forever. If it did wait there forever, then it wouldn't be as valuable.
True. No, it is. Now, for me, what I took away from that as well, all of what you just said I took away from, but I also added to it, you're supposed to arrive when it's meant to arrive. GPS says, hey, you're supposed to be there at 4:33. You're going to get there at 4:33. Oh, reroutes to 6 p.m.? Yeah, so what? You're still going to get there at 6 p.m. For me, for whatever reason, that 6 p.m. arrival time versus 4:33 is enough for me to stop and want to go home in the game of life.
Right.
But the GPS is like, so what? You arrived. You won. Where's the problem?
Right.
And I was just giggling as you were saying that in that meeting, and I was sitting there laughing, going, oh my God, how many times did I put non-tangible, doesn't matter reasons in front of my goals to deter myself as I walked away?
Right. And that's because the reason why that happens, this is something I tell my clients and I teach, that life is black or white. It's that simple. No, it's not. It's not. There's gray area, isn't there? Okay, cool. Everybody will say there's gray area, but what is the gray area? The gray area is your emotion. It was still option A or option B. It's just about how you felt about it made it complex, but you still only have option A, option B to choose from.
Yep.
It's not like your emotion created a magical option 19. So it's that simple. And so what this tells us is that our emotions become either a barrier or a booster.
Yes.
And how that transition is that when you're feeling emotionally charged and all of that stuff, this is where you hear people talk about motivation. But it comes and goes.
Yeah.
All right. And then when you use it the opposite way, it fills you with doubt. It changes your understanding of standard and your belief system.
Yep.
Slows you down, holds you back, turn you around. And the only thing that it has was about what it felt. So how does that break down? What is the big core difference between us and the GPS? GPS doesn't feel, but we're designed to feel. So how will we emulate a GPS? By controlling how we allow our feelings to be applied. That is a decision part right there. You can't control the fact that you get the emotion, but you 100% can control how you allow it to be expressed through your action.
Awesome. You know, yeah, I read something a while back. It says you have a choice to be a thermostat or a thermometer. A thermometer reacts, and a thermostat is the one that gauges, it sets the temperature. And it's true. It's what it is. And I can't tell you how many times my emotions have derailed me, sometimes minutes, sometimes weeks or months before I got back on track and went, oh, that's it. And I laugh because if I didn't have all those emotions, I would have beat the GPS.
Yeah.
But I just laughed. This little simple A plus 1 plus 2 equals 3 GPS machine is just smoking me when it comes to goals.
And it's just that baseline consistency. But what you just said, was another evolution that I have attached to the concept, right? So I'm glad you even got there because you just opened up something.
Go for it.
All right. So one people don't know is that you look at the GPS, like, oh man, it's a killer. But the GPS doesn't often. But let me tell you what the GPS lacks. The GPS lacks the creativity.
Okay.
So as human beings, we could be more creative. How many times have you looked at the GPS and say, go somewhere? It's like, no, I'm going to wait. That's quicker. That's a shortcut.
Correct. Yeah, totally.
Right? It never says that shortcut.
No.
It only has this standard understanding. This is what we're doing. You take the shortcut, you beat the GPS.
Yes.
So that's a capacity we have, but because it's consistently not allowing itself to be ruled by emotion, that ulcerative belief system, and it has a process for that, it consistently wins. And how this all comes to when we wrap it up into this framework, because like you said about how that emotion affects, right?
Yep.
So there's a concept and a technique that I have is called building your internal switch. So there's 3 attributes to building your internal switch, right?
Okay.
So really, this is something I teach clients. We use it mostly in personal relationships. How we affect personal relationships. If you're a person you get emotion, you get wired up, and then every time you get wired up, you say or do something that has a bad result, then you got to say you're sorry if you can come back from it.
So you met me a couple years ago. Okay, good.
So how to build an internal switch is that it's a couple of attributes, 3 things that we have to understand. The first thing you have to do is take ownership. You have to understand that, okay, what is this? What does ownership mean? It means that you are in charge of you, so give none of that ownership to someone else, right? So that means that you affect this outcome. The second step is that, okay, now I recognize that I have that ownership and ability. The second step is let me recognize and do the analysis. Whenever I have this heightened emotion and I do an action that's in line with that emotion, I always get a bad result. So it creates this switch point. Soon as here, it's like, pressure and then the steam.
Yep.
Like it boils up and then it steams out.
Yep.
So when you hit your switch, it says, oh, I feel this way, instantly do the opposite of what I would do. Just do the opposite, right? So let's say that you're balling up and it says do the opposite of going down, right? But then we anchor it. And where are we going down to, right? So at this point, so let's say that we're both married, right? So we use this as an example. Our wives are awesome. This is just an example. It's not actual verification. It's actually talking about you guys whose wives are not as awesome. And that works?
Continue.
Now I shall continue. All right. So, and there's also an application that works well as for fathers and children as well. Is that I want you to take action right now that's in the line with the love you have for that person. So if you love them, if you were wrapped all in love, how would you talk? What kind of patience would you have? What would you really want to communicate? So it's not that you don't have to express the point that you have, but you have to do it in the language of your own love. So when we take that, you take ownership. You have a trigger point that says, all right, let me switch. This is wrong. Now I built it up in my head like a knee-jerk reaction, do the opposite. And now when doing the opposite looks like me expressing it this way. And then we realize that we can mitigate a lot of struggle, a lot of additional headache, a lot of backward steps in our lives by doing that.
The divorce rate would go down immensely if they actually believed that and did it correctly.
Yes.
So the divorce rate would be like 15% if they actually did that.
Yeah. And it would also help if they did it before and picked the right one.
Yeah, well, there's always that too. It goes back to the old tonality thing. Hey, when I first heard the word tonality, it drove me up a wall. I'm like, that's stupid. And as I got older, I went, that's very wise. Okay, fine. Yeah, how you say it.
And a problem that a struggle that high performers have is that they've normalized high performance.
Yes.
High performance is not normal. This is a concept that I teach as well. Let me break this down. I told you this is when I tell you typified.
No, I get it. And you're going to be preaching the choir here because this is a problem I have. I know where this is headed. Keep going.
So the problem is, like I said, high performers normalize high performance. And by doing that, they violate what I consider a law, a universal truth.
Okay, go for it.
That success is not natural. So how that works is, how I explain to people. Well, if I was to say, hey, this person wants to be successful, but this guy, we just use this guy, we use a very stereotypical example. This guy lives at home, grown man, We'll put him in his 30s. Lives at home with his mom, plays video games, not playing video games to make money, but just play it for enjoyment.
Just a gamer for fun.
Right, just a gamer. He doesn't pay rent, doesn't do anything, but he sits back and he complains about he should be successful, right? Everybody with 2 brain cells to rub together or half of one to turn on will say, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Because if you did, you would be doing something different, right?
Yep.
But what he's in pursuit of and why he's doing what he's doing is because it's comfortable. See, we can accomplish failure doing absolutely nothing, and you accomplish failure. Every day of the week, 100% of the time, nothing else, right? But to actually be successful, success is measured through a series of sacrifices. And that is built in the concept that in order to say yes to success, we have to understand that a yes is just a collection of no's. It's saying no to everything where you only left with what you want, as I like to say, as a byproduct. That's the only way to say yes to it is by saying no to everything else. Like, for example, you live not far from here, right?
Correct.
So, which direction is your home?
We are northwest, about 2 miles.
Just point, because I can't.
Yeah, that way.
That way's home, right? So if you want to go home, you have to go that way.
Correct.
You don't go that way.
Nope.
So in order to go that way, you have to say no to going that way.
Yep.
You have to say no to going that way, no to going that way, no to going every other way and every other turn except the turns that lead to your home.
Correct.
That's it. And that's how we got to look at it. Stop saying yes. Oh, I want to say yes to that. No, you don't. You want to say no to all of this. Problem is that people look at the yes and they see that's all fun and yes, but they don't understand that everything is built on a collection of no's. So because success itself is not natural. So when high performers normalize success, they're saying that this is natural and common. And they fail to realize that no, you have tapped into something, right, that most people can't. And if you want to be a light, you have to understand you have to rewrite the language for others. You have to lead the path for others. And that's what makes greatness great. And that's what makes it so rare. And that's what makes success hard to achieve. If we don't dummy down what success is, but we put it at the top of the mountain and say, look, I've discovered this path is better than that path. And then that's how we get there. So when you're high performing like yourself, you realize that my gift to affect change is not to my ability to push forward towards success. It's my ability to adapt the pathway behind me for others to get there.
And it's funny because I couldn't, and most people can't until they've done it once themselves. You actually have to be successful in whatever your goal was and then go, I can do it. Get the confidence, understand the development that took, and then say, hey, more people can follow me if you follow this path. Or I found an easier path. It's not so difficult to what people are thinking. But it all starts with that old mindset of, can I do it? Am I good enough to do it? And it's that thought of what you're going through.
Right. And that's about staying present. So let's say this is, and I know some of you, if you're listening to just the audio, I'm using my hand to describe 2 different points on the table that are separate, right? Ball, shoulder width apart. Well, if your goal is to get to my right hand, you're where my left hand is. Then as you move closer, every point that you moved, every step you move, you can now inform others. You don't have to wait till you get here to have the ability to inform. And one thing that we learn with science is that you retain almost up to 80% more of information through a deeper level of understanding of it once you teach it to
somebody.
So what we're saying is that we, by sharing and cultivating the path and figuring out how I have to adjust it so you get it, because we won't call teaching if no one learns.
Yeah.
We just call it yapping,
Yep.
right? So in order to teach, that means they have to learn. And once you're able to adapt that, it makes you better. And that becomes a way to springboard and expedite your process before, or make you more efficient. So when you get into bigger potholes, bigger challenges, you have this already ingrained and built into your muscle memory and your fabric, you accomplish goal. And a lot of times, your ability to construct that path for others is the necessity for your growth.
I love it. I absolutely love it. This has been great. Demond, it has been a pleasure having you on the podcast. I really appreciate all of this, dude. So much insight. Like this is just this podcast alone. We'll go back and listen to a couple of times because we touched on so many good attributes. And again, we just talked about it for a couple of sentences, but good Lord, if you just listen, there is so much good stuff we just talked about. I look forward to your future success. I look forward to hearing about the more sign companies you're going to go train and whatnot because us sign dogs, we need help. You know, we do. We were metal guys. We were installers. We grew up, and next thing you know, we're business owners. And it wasn't our forte on day one, so we need a little bit of a push every now and then.
Yeah, and just alignment and through development and understanding everything's a development issue, everything is attainable.
Awesome.
Yeah, just come get it.
Thank you, my friend. You take care of yourself. We'll be talking soon.
All right, take care.